Welcome to Focus TV for our community today. Hi, everybody. My name is Gwendolyn Borick. I am the president of Focus for our community, unity, and support. We are the Lancaster Depew Addiction Prevention Coalition. Today's guest is Erie County Legislator Frank Todaro. As you can imagine, this podcast is all about being able to show our community who's doing what, how they're doing it, how everybody's getting through this health crisis, lessons to be learned, and hopefully what we can take away from this as we move forward into our daily lives. So, Legislator, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be with us today.
Glad to be here. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. So, Legislator, just give us a couple minutes. Hey, where were you born? Where did you graduate? Where do you currently live? Married, kids, business owner, any of that stuff.
Yeah, so I was born at Kenmore Mercy Hospital. I'm at the age of 40 years old right now. I grew up in Depew on Claudette Court, and I miss that community very much since at the age of 12, we moved to the Lancaster area. So it's still in my district to this day. We love Lancaster, we love Depew, we love Alden. They've been very good to me and my family all my life, and we want to continue living here. So at the age of 40, here I am now. I own Collision Masters. I have 32 employees, and business has been good. I've been working very hard at it, very focused, and we've grown to a large facility where we're taking care of all the major insurance carriers. And with that being said, to me, customer service was one of my key things that I've done to achieve such a good, positive business here. So my responsibilities for 32 employees to me is important. It's not just my family, but I have other families I'm taking care of. So that's a lot on my shoulders all these years. And I've always been I've had that personality to say, what can I do to make it even better? What can I do to help my community? What can I do to give back? So I'm at that point in my life where I decided, I've always had a little inkling about politics. There's a lot of politics I don't like. The bantering and the finger pointing and who's responsible and who did something wrong and who owes a favor to someone else. That's not what I'm about. I ran my business to this day being just trying to use as much logic and calculated moves. And I always thought up my process to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. So I've taken that and I said, you know what? It's time for me to do something. I decided maybe should I do something at the Lancaster town board level? Yeah, I thought about it. And then I said, you know what, maybe let me go up to another level, maybe at the county level. And I thought it was a great fit just because of my schedule with the business. And then working with the county, I have a great staff in the county. I have to say kudos to my staff with Gail Kyle, who was taking care of Lynn Dixon for years. And I'm glad to have her on board, and she's doing a phenomenal job taking my phone calls, my emails, and then, prioritizing everything and make sure that those that are in need are getting that focus from me at that time.
And you're something else though, right? I mean, you are just a business owner and a county legislator. You are a father of how many kids and how old are they?
So my wife, Cecile, who's been fantastic through this time. There's a lot of times that we have to talk each other off the ledge. Let's be honest. We're in a house with 4 kids running around, ranging from the ages of, we have Riley at 17, Nicholas at going to be 16 shortly, Lucia's going to be 10, and Giovanni's going to be turning 8 next week. So we have a lot going on, and also the dog. So a little madness and chaos going on. So I decided to try to do this interview here at my shop. So
right, I've already given you my disclaimer. I was like, all right, legislator, I've got 2 teenage boys that come out of hibernation, about high noon, and 2 dogs too. So this is the real completely. Life, right?
It is. This is life.
So if you could explain maybe some of your typical objectives or duties before this crisis, in the county and what your role is as a, what it's been as a legislator. So pre-coronavirus, pre-COVID crisis, what are your typical roles? What do you do?
Well, the main thing what I do is roads is a major, always a big issue. Um, Prior to me actually coming in and winning my election, a lot of the roads were handled in the Lancaster area, Alden, and Depew. But there's still a lot that needs to be done. So we're taking a lot of phone calls with potholes, and we just bridge that together with my office and the DPW to communicate that to them, and where they'll let us know when they'll take care of that issue. That
Yeah, you
is
work with
one
a
of.
lot of local, like the local towns and
Oh,
in that
absolutely.
way, right? Yeah.
So another thing that is happening right now is we have the sales tax drop-off issue right now. The budgets right now with everyone staying home, and the sales tax revenue is not where it needs to be. So that significantly dropped off, where now it's going to affect all the local municipalities. So our comptroller, Stefan Mahailu, has been very transparent. He answers my calls at all times, trying to get all the answers so I can take that information and transfer that right to the town supervisors or the mayor of the villages, to let them know what's coming, and they have to start budgeting correctly. And
Right.
it's imperative right now that they just everyone's very concerned right now, and we're taking this almost hour by hour on new
Yeah.
information.
So like, let's get into that. I mean, aside from a lot of the business side of the county, I know that, you work with a lot of different nonprofits. You work with us, obviously, for instance, as, part of your role, and you yourself or your liaison, Gail, you attend meetings, you're on my list for communications and connections. Um, you've said, you've already insinuated this, but pre-crisis, hey, these were the things that we've had to do. Mid-crisis, so hey, things are happening on a very quick and fast-paced basis. You're a dad, your kids no longer can go to school, your business is no longer allowed to function in the way that it's supposed to. The
Right.
county is getting, like you're saying, up to date, minute by minute, almost information from the state, from the governor. How has that really affected your role, as a legislator?
I honestly did not expect this. It was never talked about when I asked prior to and during. Um, as a Erie County legislator, uh, there's a lot of questions I've had, and so have the other 10 legislators. We were not prepared for this at all, and we're taking this, and we've definitely pivoted to make this something of our number one priority, obviously, to make sure that any information we're getting, and we're going to make sure it's factual information, so we can take that and spread it to our constituents, which is very important because yes, the phone is ringing at our office, but I'm also getting Facebook Messenger, Instagram comments, and trying to make sure that the facts are out there. And if anybody's out there just spreading a rumor or something negative, I feel it's our job to take that and make sure we correct it, because people don't need misinformation right now. This
Sure.
is all fresh data. We have to get the right information to everybody.
Yeah, big. That's a big one. I know with those divisions in governments, some of the communication isn't always clear and concise, and a lot of the information wasn't even known at the beginning. So,
Correct. Right.
I'd like to believe that the message is getting clear. So, how have you really adapted, though, to provide the community what it needs? Like, so let's with before answering that question, I guess let's back up. Why do you work with Focus? You work with us, and how does working with us really achieve your goals in helping the community?
Well, you're doing great things there, Gwen. As soon as I found out about who you are and what you're doing, and my predecessor, John Brusso, our former Erie County legislator, um, he's also your program director. Obviously, I've checked to see what he's done in the past that helps the community. and for him to join Focus and what you guys are doing as a group to keep the let's say all the schools involved with your group to make sure, drug awareness. It's imperative right now, especially these days where everyone's home and the anxiety levels are high right now, and people are looking to other avenues to escape the current crisis that we have right now. And what you guys do is fantastic, where it's keeping the awareness and the conversation open that drugs is a very let's say it's a priority that we have to not forget about in times like this right now, where it's worse.
Sure.
So keep an open dialogue and conversation where the youth can actually talk to each other about it and not be keeping it to themselves is very helpful.
Yeah. I mean, you've done a few things since you were, like brand new on the scene in January. You supported our very first Community Impact Awards event. And how did you do that? We had, and that was a successful event. We had 150 people at Salvatore's for a dinner recognizing administration from, school districts, Lancaster, Depew, the SRO of Depew, government, youth, other coalitions. So we had 12 people that we recognized. Yes. And what did you do to support that event?
I could not attend it that evening. I had 3 other events that evening, and I knew ahead of time that I had to do something to recognize, especially the people that are doing the right things for the community. So I decided to put some proclamations together, and I dropped them off to you, and I saw the beautiful photographs. Everybody was dressed very well. It was very nice to see that. You guys had a great event that night. But, I apologize I couldn't make it.
That's all right. It's the little things that matter. And, aside from the awards that were created specifically for that event by Iron Art, those metal buffaloes, which were amazing. That was a great add-on. So we appreciate that, legislator. Aside from that, so that was pre this crisis. In the midst of this crisis, you're right. Obviously, as a addiction prevention coalition, our job is to prevent these youth, ultimately ages 13 to 18, to turn to drugs as a way of coping, as a way of, escaping what's going on. And some of these, a lot of things could lead to that point. If we know that parents aren't working, that they can't, they have no job, there's no food, they can't buy food, they don't have money to pay for internet to make sure the kids can get on, their tablets or whatever for school.
Right.
Everything just could domino. And I would say kudos to our 2 school districts. Everybody gets internet. Everybody has some sort of technology to be able to keep these kids engaged in school, which is one component of, I think, some sort of normalcy for them. But I went to our coalition in the very beginning, knowing that our local food pantries, I had been contacted by the executive director of Tri-Community Food Pantry. He's like, Gwen, our needs are up by 60%. There's a lot of kids right there in that local community right in Depew that we're going to need food. And you were the first one to act. Tell us what you did.
Well, yeah, I did hear about that. And, I put 2 and 2 together. So there's a business here downtown that the owner's name is Nick Patillo. He's a very well-known guy. And if you don't know him, I'm sure you know him now. Nick owns Asteria 166, and he got devastated, obviously, with what's going on. But he sat back and said, what can I do to hire my people back and get my product out to everyone? So he designed Stock the Freezer. And if you go on his social media, you can actually see his story. But he actually took a negative and spinned it and made a positive. And I think he took a lot on, actually, after he turned that around, because he's just been putting so many miles on his vehicles. He's working, endless hours. He's got most of his staff back in the kitchen. So what they outgrew their kitchen. They had to go across the street to the Statler and use a commercial side, a huge banquet kitchen to just constantly, they're making all these meals. And they actually have a tractor trailer for freezer storage outside just to store it all. But
And he was doing, so basically stock the freezer. They were like, almost doing like meal prep, freezing the dinners, and then
yes,
people could buy the dinners to stock their freezer, or they could buy extra dinners and donate those
right.
to charity. And that's how you got involved, right? Because you're like,
I
what, I
did.
might have somebody.
So I actually ordered it, just keeping my local business, funding them. And then next thing I did, I decided with Tri-County, I said, you know what, Collision
Try
Masters is
community,
good.
right? Yeah.
I'm with Tri-Community. So I decided Collision Masters was going to donate $500 to stock the freezer, where Nick actually personally dropped it off to my facility here, where I just took that and I delivered it to my district. And Tri-Community was one of the food pantries that I was glad and happy to drop that off.
Yeah. We appreciate that, legislator, obviously. And he, aside from the money, I think what people have realized is that if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. If you can't feed your kids, you don't have anything. So
That's right.
you don't realize how important just staying alive, really is during times like this. So moving forward, we'll spend the last, 5 minutes or so of the interview kind of talking about resources. What can either small business owners do, community leaders, citizens at large, what can they get involved in to either help our local community, or where they can find resources to get the help, so
Sure.
that we're providing some sort of benefit to the viewers who are watching right now?
Well, I would say start with some simple things. Check on your neighbors, make a few phone calls, see how they're doing. There's a lot of elderly in our community, and we want to make sure that everyone's okay. Just to make a phone call and just keep spirits up is a very important thing. Other things that we can do is there is you can check the website erie.gov, and there's a COVID-19 web page on there that has a lot of questions and answers that you can actually scroll through and see if anything you're wondering or need an answer on. Majority of those questions are answered right there. There is also a phone number here. It's the COVID-19 hotline. That number you can call directly. It's 716-858-2929, and you'll have a live person that's an Erie County employee. It's a local number that you're going to actually talk to, and they can answer any questions you have.
That's fantastic. And that's a big one, because there's a lot of information flying at us from a lot of levels of federal government with the CARES Act, the stimulus packages that are going
Yes.
out, and sites are crashing. Banks have had to adjust. The SBA's had to adjust. Just real quickly, even you as a business owner, what have you had to do, just to even deal with the changes to your business?
It was a day-by-day decision. Obviously, there's not many people are home. They're not driving on the roads. So my business is impacted by 72% drop-off, and that is still increasing. If the car's not drivable, we're fixing it. Otherwise, if they happen to go to the store and get a ding or a dent or hit another vehicle or pole, whatever it is, they're just going to hold off. And obviously, they're more concerned about what's going on right now, and they can wait. So that's affected me really, really a lot. So I've dropped my staff, which it's sad and it's a hard thing to do, but I had to, make a decision that majority of my staff is now safe at home. We are deemed as an essential company. We are still working on EMS vehicles, doctors, healthcare workers. Their vehicles are priority. They do need to get back and forth. Thankfully, I have a great relationship with both Enterprise and Hertz to get them a vehicle in between, so they can get to work and do what they need to do, which is the front lines. But again, it's dropped off a lot. There is a PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program that I did. Thankfully, that did come through finally with my local bank, Evans. They've been fantastic. For them to be just dropped on their lap, and this is the new program, and day to day getting phone calls from both my CPA and also my attorney just to get the paperwork right. And it was not easy. I mean, I literally spent 4.5, 5 hours just to get the paperwork together, shut my phone off. I had to get that done, get that in 2 Fridays ago to make sure I was trying to get in line ahead of all the other thousands of businesses. They're trying to do the same thing. And to finally find out that they ran out of money on the first batch and thinking, am I going to get my funding? Well, my SBA was approved. But I just feel that there's so many mom and pop businesses out there, small businesses, that are trying to do the same thing. And thankfully, the federal government and the Senate approved another second amount of money, $310 billion allocated just for PPP. So please don't give up. You have to be patient. If you already applied, it's going to go into that one. If you haven't applied, I really, you should get going on that right away.
Yeah, I mean, being a financial advisor, I mean, most people don't realize that this is just my passion and my outreach to the community. But this is a fast-paced market right now with the amount of money that the government's injecting to keep the economy going. And that's one thing, as an advisor, I'm constantly on calls with institutional analysts, and they're reading into what's happening on the federal level, what's happening on a local level. And, one thing's for sure, as long as there's government, there's going to be a stock market. And, we'll have some sort of resources to inject into, our businesses. The process and how that happens and how we get it might be frustrating. It took us 6 months to write our federal grant for Focus. It took almost a nervous breakdown on my behalf in July, trying to navigate the systems to submit it. But hard work does pay off. I mean, we as a coalition and a non-for-profit, we are now backed by the White House Office of Drug Control Policy of $625,000 over 5 years. So hard work does pay off.
Great job.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Great job. Fantastic. We love you for that.
And and that's goes right into Lancaster and Depew, which is
yes, it does.
Amazing. So, I agree with you. Don't give up. Keep up the good fight. For anybody that's watching, and maybe this is a good time for people to start, really realizing how, as big as the economy could really be, how beneficial it could be to support our local businesses, right, and really get to know who these people are and build relationships, because who you see fighting through this right now and staying abreast of these updates and these changes and, reaching out to their employees and trying to keep everybody employed. These are the winners. These are the companies that we want to be involved with, that we want to really showcase. And, I appreciate what Western New York does. We have this reputation of resiliency, and I can appreciate that. So
our people are just great.
Yeah.
This is Buffalo. I love it.
Yeah. And so any last advice, being a father of all those kids, because I personally, I got my 2 boys at home, 13 and 18. What are we doing at home? How are we keeping the sanity, legislator? What do we got?
Well, one thing my wife has, been teaching me is to just keep my mouth shut and listen. I've been doing really well with that. I just take one problem at a time, and it's very difficult, but it's something that, it's a work in progress to just take one issue at a time and try to execute a good answer for the kids, and just, keep them busy, their mental state. The schools have been doing really well. They didn't donate, but they lent out some laptops so they can do their schoolwork and keep in touch with through Zoom with their teachers on a daily basis. So that's keeping them going. But we're doing a lot of arts and crafts, and just keep your mental state. If you start feeling a little bit down, go outside, go for a walk, dress appropriately. Right now our weather's been terrible, but it's worth it. Just go out and get some air, and just take a few minutes to yourself.
Yeah,
very
take
important.
A deep breath, right? I mean,
that's right.
One thing's for certain is that this will end, and how we got through it will be a testament to our character, how we did it as parents. And I try to express to our youth who are at the table helping us pre-plan a music event in August. Guys, this is what you're going through is no different what parents are going through. Our whole lives are uprooted by this, So I think as long as we share and are vulnerable with our own experiences throughout this and our humanity,
That's right.
Maybe the kids will open up to us a little more. The teenagers will appreciate, some of our vulnerabilities, and, we can create a bond throughout this. I mean, that's my goal, is hopefully Focus can bring to the table some resources to create bonds with our families and connections to the kids, and
Yes.
we get through this healthy and safely. So
I agree. The community has this new bond. It's a refreshing bond that, hey, we have each other. We have to work through this together, and we're going to prevail.
That's right. So, Legislator, thank you so much for your time today. I do hope to see you on some future episodes, and
Yes.
Keep up the good fight. And hey, reach out to Focus anytime you need us for any other things, and you know that we're there for you. So thank you.
Thanks for having me here today, and please stay safe, everybody.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.